What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday, Jake Waxman, Tom Lava, let two guys talk sports. Let's go. Alright, Olympics start this week in Paris, France. And then, of course, the Olympics afterwards will be in Los Angeles. Now, I'm looking forward to the Paris Games. But I'm going to get into a topic somewhat related to the Olympics. But big news we have, France will be... So the next two Winter Olympic Games will be held 2030 and 2034. So after Milano Cortina in 2026, 2030, it'll be back-to-back Winter Olympic Games for the continent of Europe. And the next games will be in a country that borders Italy, in France. And from what I'm hearing, these games will be in the French Alps. I don't know the exact city that they'll be hosted in, but the French Alps is what I'm being told will be the host for the 2030 Winter Olympics. And then 2034, the Winter Olympic Games will be hosted by none other than Salt Lake City, Utah. That's right. Salt Lake City. This will be the second time that city has hosted the games. It'll be the first time since 2002 that they have hosted the games. And I just got to say, I like the decision. I like what the Olympic Committee's doing here. Of course, yes, I know it means France and the United States hosting more Olympics, but really, honestly, those are two nations that can afford the costs and to bear the costs. And with the 2030 games being in the French Alps, so it sounds like multiple communities will be pitching in to help make these Olympics possible, which is pretty much looking like the future model for the Winter Olympics. Now, in 2034, of course, it'll be in a single city, Salt Lake City, United States of America. I'm excited about it. Actually, the Winter Olympics to me is underrated. I love some of the events like hockey, bobsled racing, all that stuff. Really, really neat. Really some unique sports in the Winter Olympics. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the Winter Games return to both France and the United States, especially the United States in 2034, not 2024. Sorry, folks. That's 10 years from now. But I'm really looking. But the United States and France, they're experienced with hosting such big events, so I have no doubt that hosting the Winter Olympics, they can handle this. And especially Salt Lake City, they've done this before. This will be their second go-around. They got the experience, and it would not surprise me to see the remaining infrastructure from the 2022 Winter Olympic Games. It would not, whatever remains of those games, it would not surprise me if we use those venues again, and then the cost of building new venues should be pretty low for whatever we need, or other venues around, other places around Salt Lake City that could be used for Olympic venues. That could be repurposed, reconfigured, whatever you want to say. I think it's the United States is going to have a good plan for hosting the 2034 Olympic Games. God bless it. And looking forward to seeing the next three Winter Olympic Games. They're going to be fun to watch. That much I do know, especially the ones in the United States. And the United States has a good plan. Will have a good plan in place, no doubt. Where the costs should be low, because there's already going to be existing infrastructure to help support the Winter Olympic Games. And I guess on one final note, I'm hoping that with the return of, and hopefully with the return of NHL athletes in both Team Canada and Team USA, hopefully, maybe we can win a gold medal in hockey in the USA in 2034. Or at least one can dream, right? Have another miracle on ice. We'll see. So, but really, this is just some of my thoughts on the Winter Olympic Games being announced for the French Alps in France, and 2030. That's in 2030, and then I shared some of my thoughts on the 2034 Winter Olympic Games being hosted in the United States, which looking forward to it. Looking forward to the next three Winter Olympic Games. So, just my thoughts on that subject. All right, now we're going to talk about some Formula One. All right, so honestly, this Formula One season was starting to look really, really boring. Looked like Max Verstappen was going to run away with it, and while Max probably still will win the championship, the fact that we have seven, and I mean 7 different winners in Formula One this season, that is really good for the sport. It really goes to show that there are some good teams building great cars, especially for the future. I mean, it's not just Red Bull. I mean, McLaren looks fast. I mean, Ferrari's had some good moments. Even Mercedes looks to be back on the up and up. So, I mean, Mercedes has 2 wins for McLaren, and of course 2 wins for Ferrari, and then 7 for Red Bull, all with one driver. But really happy for Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, who both got their first win this season. Of course, Piastri won the Hungarian Grand Prix last week, so we'll see if he can keep this momentum up in just his second season. He's taken a whole lot of strides forward there. Lewis Hamilton, of course, happy for him. A 9th British Grand Prix win, which is just crazy, but goes to show what a legend he really is. And George Russell has a win this season, so Mercedes, they got some hope there. And then Leclerc winning his home Grand Prix, the Monaco Grand Prix, happy for him there. And Carlos Sainz has a Grand Prix win this year. So it's really good. It's really refreshing to see that there have been multiple winners in this F1 season. While it's still looking like Max Verstappen is going to win the championship, hey, there's a lot to be excited about for the rest of the season, because you know what? There's like at least 4 different teams this season that can win races. And who knows? Maybe we'll get a 5th one. Maybe Aston Martin steps up and Fernando Alonso steps up and wins a Grand Prix. I'd love to see that happen. You know, a lot of people would love to see Alonso win another Grand Prix and make it 8 different winners on the season. And the only thing so far, I mean, it has been great to watch. The one thing I will say that does kind of surprise me is, wow, Sergio Perez, you thought he would be among those 7 different winners, but that's not the case. He has not won a Grand Prix this year, and he's really been struggling, which I'm going to get to. So that's the one thing that's surprising. But the variety of winners in this F1 season has made the 2024 season really intriguing and really exciting to watch, and worth keeping tabs on, because you just never know who's going to win, who might be the next different winner, if there is one, of course. I've got a feeling we're going to have 8 or 9, maybe 9 different winners. We'll see. This is a Formula One season like no other, because there's a lot of teams that look competitive. Even though the championship outcome probably might be the same, and Red Bull might win another one, that Constructors' Championship, like I mentioned, the Drivers' Championship, looks like Verstappen, I wouldn't surprise me if Verstappen wins his 4th straight, but that Constructors' Championship is going to be very, very interesting to watch. I mean, with Red Bull's second car struggling, I mean, who knows? McLaren, Ferrari, even Mercedes, one of those teams, they could sneak up and steal it from Red Bull. What chaos this season has been, but what great excitement too. So this Formula One season so far, anything but boring. It's been fun to watch. And now, speaking of Max Verstappen, okay, last week he had a rough race. Of course, Max Verstappen, so I mentioned there's been 7 different winners. Verstappen I'm on that group, but he's the only one with multiple wins this season. He's got 7 Grand Prix wins this season, but, well, I do think he's still going to win the World Drivers' title, or championship. It's not going to be easy for him. I think he's going to have his hands full, because the Red Bull this season has not been as good as it has been the last 3 years. That's right. Now you got teams like McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes upping the pressure on Red Bull. And it's showing. And we're seeing it in Max Verstappen as well, and the whole team. Last week's Hungarian Grand Prix, it was absolute chaos, absolute mess for Red Bull and Max Verstappen. Now, I will say this. Max Verstappen, he had a point about the strategy. Okay, the strategy for Ferrari was, or not for Ferrari, but for Red Bull in the Hungarian Grand Prix, they were way off the mark. Like, they actually lost in positions almost every time and they brought him in. Actually, every time. So, I can understand Max Verstappen being frustrated with the strategy, but, however, it's also a lot of what happened to Max Verstappen in the Hungarian Grand Prix is also his fault, too. I mean, it just seems like when the pressure's on it, or when Max is not leading the race, he makes mistakes. That's when he's most likely to make mistakes, and he made a big one, cutting across Lewis Hamilton and overbraking in that turn, and he ended up going airborne like that and cost him 2 positions, and he ended up 5th in the race. Had he been more patient, he probably would have been on the podium and would have lost a lot less points. And now, if things can't get worse for Max Verstappen, from what I heard, Ferrari is going to give, or not Ferrari, but Formula One, I keep mentioning Ferrari, Formula One, they are going to give Max Verstappen a 10th place grid penalty for the Belgian Grand Prix in qualifying. So no matter where he qualifies, he's going to lose 10 spots because of an unapproved engine change in the Hungarian Grand Prix. So the pressure really mounting for Red Bull right now and Max Verstappen. Again, I still think he's going to win the World Drivers' title. He leads by 76 points, but with 11 races to go, that's not exactly a comfortable lead. Teams like... I still think Lando Norris is in this championship fight. I think it's going to be between Max and Lando. I think the Ferrari drivers are just still too inconsistent. Mercedes, they've had some inconsistencies, but McLaren, I think, is the biggest threat to Red Bull this season. They've upped their game. Can they put together a few more wins? That's going to be... If they can put together a few more wins, they're going to really put the pressure on Max then. So Verstappen's going to have to win as many races as he can. Beat his closest competitor so he can win another driver's title. But it's not going to be easy for Max because as of things stand right now, the Red Bull does not look like the fastest car. That may be the McLaren as things stand right now. But each week is different in Formula One. You never know. It could be the Red Bull that's fast one week and then the McLaren another week, or the Mercedes or the Ferrari or the Aston Martin. You never know. That's how competitive this season's been. And one other thing that I'm going to mention. Max Verstappen and Red Bull, they're in the position they're in right now. Okay, strategy also, they haven't had the fastest car every week, but strategy has been the big thing that has kept Red Bull atop the standings and has kept Max Verstappen on top of the driver standings. However, one thing that is also really putting the pressure on Red Bull and hurting them has been the performance of that second car driven by Sergio Perez. I have no idea what's going on with that team and Sergio Perez. I have no idea. And they're threatening to replace him with Daniel Ricciardo if things don't get better. Gotta help Sergio get his confidence back. We know he's a capable driver. We know he can win in that car. But he has had a rough season this year. I think he only has like 1 or 2 podiums, and just qualifying has been a big problem for that second Red Bull team, or that 11 car driven by Sergio Perez. And that is definitely not that's not helping Red Bull nor Max Verstappen, because that's points that Red Bull is losing because of that. Sergio Perez, he needs to get his confidence back. Now I heard they actually re-signed him not too long ago, but now I'm starting to wonder if they did. If they did, I'm starting to wonder if Red Bull is regretting that decision right now, because it seems like if he did re-sign, it just really hasn't helped his confidence either. So, I don't know. Or maybe they didn't actually sign him to a deal, and they're still considering all options out there, like Carlos Sainz, for example. But still, these last 11 races for the Formula One season, they are going to be very, very, extremely telling for Max Verstappen and Red Bull Racing. Can they respond to the pressure and to the challenge posed by teams like McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari of all teams? We will find out. Alright, on to this day in sports history. And on this day, the 24th of July, 1908, American Johnny Hayes wins the London Olympic Marathon, the first London Olympic Games. So Johnny Hayes, the American, wins the London Olympic Marathon in a games record 2:55:18.4. After Dorando Petri of Italy was disqualified for receiving assistance before the finish line. Ouch. That's all I gotta say. So the American Johnny Hayes, he wins this race because the front runner ended up getting some unapproved assistance and pretty much lost first place because of that. But hey, the rules are the rules. You gotta follow them. Simple as that. Johnny Hayes followed the rules in this case. Make sure I got the name right. Yep, Johnny Hayes. So he followed the rules, and that's why he won. So, but it's tough to lose. Still tough to lose an Olympic event like that. All right, sports fans, that is all I got for this week's Waxon Wednesday. Thank you so much for watching. This is Jake Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports, wishing you all a good week and enjoy the start of the games of the 33rd Olympiad in Paris, France. Take care, sports fans.